and I still have your logos and stuff from last year, so I'll whip something up afterwards. You excited for the Kentucky game, man?
If they look as bad as they did versus Georgetown, then yes.
I
Oh, you
know.
talking about football? No.
No, no, no. Yeah, no. I'm talking about the F word. I know we're the basketball podcast right now, but
No, not looking forward to it at all. I mean, I expect
really,
Auburn to win, but Kentucky's not a very good team, so them beating bad teams doesn't excite me very much.
yeah, it definitely does not. All right, everybody. Well, welcome YouTube. We're gonna start recording here in just a little bit. I don't know if anybody's in right now because most people don't have their notifications ready for us to go live in the middle of the afternoon. I'm looking around. I'm not used to recording podcasts when the sun is out either.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get this started here in just a second. I'm gonna blast this out just in case anybody wants to hop in. You never know who's gonna be in the chat. All right, we ready to do this thing?
Just make it happen.
3, 2. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Jumble. All right, I'm about to cut that already. Woo, it is the preseason. We have got to get warmed up. Welcome back to the Jungle Auburn podcast. We're here to talk Auburn basketball, a little bit of preseason hoops, a little bit of season expectations, and joining us, a very special guest. If you listen to the podcast, you know him, you love him. Ike Jones from the War Report. Ike, how you doing?
I'm good, man. You had your Oklahoma State start. It's all good.
No, listen, we started the Oklahoma State game pretty good. It was that second half where things got wild. We talked about that a little bit in our recap of the Oklahoma State game. That Oklahoma State, man, they really ran their starters into the ground. And I think my favorite thing about this preseason has been getting to know some of these new faces.
Yeah.
We're bringing back Tahad Pettiford, and that is it. Well, no, let me correct myself. We're bringing back Tahad Pettiford and Blake Michalek, and that
Yeah.
is it. Everybody else are new guys. And you were at the Memphis game last night. Do you want to tell us a little bit of what you saw in that second preseason game?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they started a completely new lineup out there, right? Pettiford wasn't in the starting lineup.
Oh, yeah.
And what I loved about what they decided to do in this game was to treat it truly like an exhibition game to get other guys opportunities to go out there and play as opposed to I'm focused on winning an exhibition game. All right, let me go out there and let's get work for guys who need more opportunities because you know what you're going to get from Tahad Pettiford for the most part, and you've got regular season games that you can work on that. I need to see what my freshmen look like out there. So let's put them out there and see what they're going to do. And you saw a lot of really great effort off the rip from them, doing more zone than they have been in the previous seasons. But really good defensive effort, specifically forcing a lot of turnovers in that game early on. Let's see, turnovers in total. Auburn forced 23 in that game, and Memphis just was not really. They were out of sorts pretty much the entirety of the game, particularly because they couldn't shoot threes.
Yeah, for folks that didn't get a chance to watch, the starting five that we rolled out was Caden Magwood, Sebastian Williams Adams, Abdul Bashir, Keyshawn Hall, the big guard, and Philippe Jokic. So literally nobody that we had seen on this team last year. But the star of the preseason so far definitely has to be the big guard. Number 7 in the program, number 1 in the scoring column for both games, Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall crashing inside, hitting some three-pointers. Ike, he looks as good as advertised to me. What did you think?
Yeah, he's one of those guys who, because of his ball handling ability, is an absolute terror to guard. Because, unlike Janai Broom, who is all beast down low, right? Like you put him in the post and it's like you have to double team this guy or it's probably going to be a bucket unless you just have an excellent shot blocker and length that he's got to go finish over the top of. Keyshawn Hall, you put him out there, he's going to face up against your power forward center, and he's going to put it on the floor, and he's going to put that guy in conflict. And he can absolutely handle the rock. He can step out and shoot it, so you have to, you can't just back off of him and wait for him to come towards you. He's a problem, man. He's a very difficult guy to guard. And he looks to go and score. When he gets the ball and it's like he realizes, oh, you're going to play me one-on-one? Great, bucket. Let's go get it. So love the aggressiveness that he has offensively, and he is, as you said, as advertised. He is an absolute bucket out there.
20 plus points in both games, driving, attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line. That was huge for us against Memphis. And one of the interesting things is we went from last season where we had two true centers in Janai Broom and Dylan Cardwell. We rolled out that Twin Towers lineup to start for pretty much the entire season to now a team with basically no true center. Keyshawn Murphy, the Mississippi State transfer, is the closest thing we have to it. And with that knee injury, or it might have been like a hamstring, ankle, some kind of soft tissue injury
Yeah, I
that
think
first
it's a
game. We
knee.
didn't see a ton of him. Yeah, we didn't see a ton of him against Memphis. But he's really the only true center on this roster. Can you talk a little bit about this run and gun style that we seem to be going with this year?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even at full rev right now because Murphy isn't at full speed, but it's definitely going to be what they want to do is what they did versus Memphis. Force turnovers, get out in transition. You've got guys who are quick. You've got guys who may not be the tallest, but they have good length and good physicality that allow them to play the kind of pressure style that they want to against most lineups. And they are what their focus seems to have been, and this is something that Keyshawn Hall talked about in the post game, was playing better collective defense, which is why you saw less one on one. They wanted to be on a string a little bit more, playing better help defense and being able to force those Memphis players into poor decisions or 3-point shots, right? Like they were like, we're not going to allow the interior stuff, even if you're going to get it to the interior of the zone. We're going to close down some of what you would have as secondary actions off of that and force your bigs to kind of shoot mid-range stuff. But up and down the floor is what they wanted to be, and they were able to do that in this game. Let's see, fast break points for Auburn in this one, 19. And so they did a good job of just forcing the turnovers and getting out on the break.
And you want to talk about feast or famine this year? It feels like we're in for another roller coaster ride in our 3-point shooting. Not great in the first game, but talk about a bounce back. 10 of 24 from deep. That's good for 42%. We've got shooters all over the floor. Abdul Bashir finally starting to find his shot. He was a beast in the JUCO, scoring over double and triple teams. Bruce Pearl mentioned that we showed a lot of zone against Memphis, that 1-3-1 look that I think we're going to have to rely on a lot because, like you said, we're long, we're rangy, we're fast, but we're a little undersized, and that's going to continue going into SEC play. Fortunately, unlike last year, we have a little bit of an on ramp for these first three games. We've got Bethune at home, Merrimack College at home, and Wofford at home before we travel to Birmingham to take on the Houston Cougars. What do you think about our matchup in Birmingham this year?
It's going to be a tough one. Listen, that Houston team is turning over quite a bit as well, but they are going to be a Ralph Sampson team. I just don't know. I don't mean it like they're going to be a Sampson coach team from the very beginning, which is going to be physical, playing tough defense. And that's the one thing that you kind of worry about a little bit, well, I worry about a little bit with this Auburn team from what I've seen in these first two games, is that I don't know that you have enough quality point guard play yet to be able to handle the kind of pressure defense that Houston's going to apply. And then are you going to be able to fight with them on the interior when you need those tough second chance points or to prevent them from getting to the second chance stuff? Haven't seen this Houston team play yet this season, so yet to be seen kind of where their scoring is going to come from, because that's usually the problem with these Houston squads is they just don't have enough scoring to be able to keep up. But if they've got some decent scoring with the way in which they play defense, they're going to be a tough out.
Until they do what they did against Florida last year and put together 8 points in about 8 seconds to end the ball game. That was a mad flurry from Houston to reach the championship game next year. Auburn
And I
doesn't
said Ralph
slow
Sampson. I
down.
meant Kelvin Sampson. I don't know why I said that. Ralph
That's
Sampson
all
was
right.
the former Houston center like years
Well,
ago.
what's Kelvin's son? Because he's probably going to be doing the Stephen Pearl thing sometime in the next couple of years, right? There, he's sort of the heir apparent, the coach in waiting there.
Maybe so.
Yeah, but Auburn's non-conference schedule does not slow down. We're going to be going to the Players Era Tournament in Vegas, where they're guaranteed games against Oregon and Michigan, and then at least one more against what's going to be top 15 competition across the board. They've got NC State at home in the ACC SEC Men's Challenge this season. They're going on the road at Arizona, and then this year they're returning the favor to Purdue and going to play them in Indianapolis as the second to last game of the non-conference season. I Last year we put together the toughest non-conference schedule in Auburn basketball history, and it seems like we're swinging for that again this go around. How many losses can Auburn enter SEC play with, and still be a contender in your mind?
I mean, so when you say contender, I think the expectation because of where Auburn has been the last few years has been, oh, this is a team that needs to be top 10. I don't know that this is a top 10 squad. Haven't seen that yet between those first two exhibition games. They're going to have to get much better on the defensive end as far as their ability to. Because if you find, here's the problem: if you're going to have to play zone the way Auburn is playing zone right now, and you run against a team who can actually shoot, then there's going to be a problem there with the way in which you play, right? So you're going to have to figure out how to get your man defense. I need to see a game where they can shift to man and play effectively in that man defense and still have good team defense before I'm ready to say kind of what the ceiling of this Auburn team can be. But listen, that Houston game is definitely not a guaranteed dub, right? Wasn't a guaranteed dub last year, so that could be an L for this Auburn team. I don't know what Oregon's looking like this year, so it's difficult for me to really talk about that game with any sort of confidence. This Michigan team, top 10 ranked team, but they've got a lot of turnover on that squad as well, so maybe some rough starts there for that team. The NC State squad, that's not going to be an easy out, even though it's a new coach, new brand of basketball that they're going to be having. We've seen it with
And
Will Wade
an
before.
old foe. I was going to say an old foe with Will Wade coming at us.
Yeah, so the style there, but you just don't know the personnel quite yet. So that game right now is in question. That Arizona team is a top 20 team right now in the country. Again, that's a team that's going to be turning over quite a bit of their personnel. That's the difficulty of this era that we're in with all of these transfers. These teams look so drastically different, and some of them even have different coaches. So having an anticipation of what they're going to be top to bottom is difficult. But, honestly, to get back to the question, I think you can stomach a couple of losses in that and still be fine. It's SEC play that's ultimately going to matter for this team. That's going to determine where they're going to be seated later in this season, and that's where you're going to get into a buzzsaw of big bodies that Auburn's going to have to figure out how to just deal with the attrition that is naturally going to happen with all of the physicality that's going to happen within conference play.
In a lot of ways, we've been really lucky with how a lot of our injuries have broken down. I mean, we had the Jalen Williams injury 2 years ago that seemingly derailed us. I think that was a big factor in that loss to Yale, not having Jalen Williams at 100%. Obviously, we had Janai Broom just get beat and banged up in the NCAA tournament, came back for the miracle to get us to the Final Four against Michigan State. Clearly wasn't 100% versus Florida. You don't know how big of a factor that could have been in a game that was only a few possessions separated going down the stretch. And man, the way Keyshawn Hall plays, it's so clear that he's going to be a fundamental factor, probably the X factor on this team
Yeah.
going in. And a guy that plays that physical, you always worry about his health through a 30-game stretch. So let's talk a little bit more about these players. Who do you see as being the most valuable player by the time the season is over?
Yeah. So there's a couple of answers for that I could
No, no,
give.
no. I want to
I'm
hold you to one. I want to
No,
hold you to
I'm going to
one.
give you one. I'm not gonna spray around multiple different guys, and I'm going to qualify why I'm giving this person in particular. It's because of what we've been talking about over and over again about size. I think the way in which Sebastian Williams Adams plays, he is going to be such a crucial piece to what Auburn's able to do just from an effort and energy standpoint. You need guys who can just go get you dirty points, who can just go get you loose balls, who can just go out there and put their body between an offensive player and the basket. And he's a guy who's willing to do that. He is all toughness, energy, effort every single time he steps out there on the floor. He's going to be crucial because he's going to be asked to play against much bigger people than him for the vast majority of the games.
I think that's 100% correct. And he's a freshman, 4-star coming in, highly touted. He's going to have to learn in a hurry, but he's got the opportunity to go against some really hard, tough competition early in the season. So we hope we can see that kind of growth from him. We got Jackson reaching out. Jackson's going to be in and out this year. We'll see how many times we can get him on the pod. But for him, it's got to be Tahad Pettiford. He's the
Hmm.
straw that stirs the drink. He was one of our best shooters last year, effective at scoring outside. And it's going to be him that allows our power forwards, which seems to be where a lot of our scoring talent is this year, to get those one-on-one opportunities to attack the glass, to get inside and get to the foul line. And for me, especially what I saw in the leap from the first exhibition game to the second exhibition game, Philip Jovic is going to be such a crucial rotation player for this team. You watch how he understands the game Stephen Pearl and Bruce before him value these high IQ basketball players. And he's just a guy who knows where his body has got to be on the floor. And I think having players out there that can anticipate where they need to be, especially with the help defense and a lot of the zone that I'm sure we're going to be playing, is so important. And I'm so impressed with his free throw shooting. Ike, you know me, I love free throws. Guys get to the line a ton at Auburn, but they've got to hit their free throws. He was 7 of 8 last night against Memphis. He was a big factor every time he was on the floor. And I think we may see him starting before this year is over.
Yeah,
So
I could
who do
see that.
you
And listen, each of those other names that you just named were guys that were in my mind as like these guys are super important. I mentioned earlier about not having the point guard play. You're going to see Tahad Pettiford play heavy minutes this year if he can stay out of foul trouble, just because I don't know that they're ready to put anybody else in the position to play heavy minutes at the point guard position for Auburn this season. So he's going to have to play a lot of minutes. And now he hasn't found his scoring stroke yet, right? Like first 2 games, he hasn't shot the ball particularly well. Had some good looks, just hasn't been able to find it. But when he finds it, this team becomes exponentially more dangerous on the offensive end because you just can't, like, he's a guy that's, it's difficult to stay in front of him, but when he puts the brakes on and he pulls up for the mid range or he comes, it's a deadly proposition. They're going to have to find ways to get him more involved in this offense intentionally, I think, this season. What they're doing with that flex, I don't know that complements his style as well as it needs to. So they're going to have to be more intentional with ways of saying, we're going to go get Tahad a bucket this time or put him in a situation where he can make the play.
for sure. I think it was interesting to see. We played in the first game against Oklahoma State a little bit more of that 5-out. You would see Keyshawn Murphy coming all the way to the top of the key to handle the ball in some of that flex action. I don't know how much we're going to see that this year, and that's mostly because we don't have a lot of true fives on this team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge for Tahad to balance his role, getting guys in position and running the offense with also needing to be the scorer and the guy with the ball in his hand late in the shot clock. So, Ike, let's say we have a successful season. We're flirting with a top 2 seed. We're in contention for the SEC championship late. Who's your leading scorer on this basketball team?
I think it's got to be Keyshawn Hall. I think Hall has to be the guy just because, listen, 3-level scorer from a forward position, tough finisher through contact, good free throw shooter, right? Like those are all recipes for guys who are going to consistently score in the 20s because he's going to get to the free throw line consistently and he's going to shoot it at a high clip when he gets there. He can step out and shoot the 3 against some of these bigs who aren't going to be able to stay in front of him. And for the ones who are quick enough to stay in front of him, he's stronger than. So I think he's going to end up being a guy who's going to average in the 20s this year for Auburn per game.
We know that he's done it before, and I'm going to stay right there with you, man. I think Keyshawn Hall is such a Swiss Army knife in terms of the way that he attacks defenses and forces you to defend the whole floor. And, it doesn't matter who you switch on to him, he's going to find some way to be at an advantage. We know that he can score a lot because he did it when he was at Central Florida. I think you're absolutely right. I think he's going to be leading the way for us in terms of points. Jackson disagrees with us. However, he thinks it's got to be Tahad. Once again, he thinks Tahad is the most valuable player, and he thinks he's got to lead us in scoring if we're going to get to the kind of place that we want to get.
I
It's an
think
interesting
Tahad
take.
needs to be the closer for Auburn. I think he has to be the
Mm,
guy in the last 5 minutes of a game that just takes the game over. But I think Keyshawn Hall gets you to the finish line. It's kind of like a relay race, or a 2-man relay. But I think
mm.
Keyshawn's running the first 3 legs of that relay, and he passes it off to Todd to close the game out. Because when you're talking about March, when you're talking about tournament time, guards rule the day. And Tahad needs to be the guy who's able to get downhill, finish through contact, get to the free throw line, make those clutch free throws, get the big shot for you because he's going to have the ball in his hands. But I think when you're talking about over the length of the season, it's going to be Hall.
I couldn't agree more. Jackson, next time if you want to defend your hot takes, you got to come on the podcast. Ike, last year we saw one of the greatest Auburn basketball seasons of all time. In my opinion, the greatest. I didn't get to watch a ton of the Charles era, mostly because I was about yay high back in the day. But we were the #1 overall seed. We won the SEC regular season title. We made it to the Final Four for the second time in program history. I don't think anybody out there thinks Auburn is going to be that team again. right? We're ranked number 20 in the preseason. The expectations are, I think, about where they should be for a roster that's had this kind of turnover and that's bringing in the caliber of players that it does. But there's nothing to say that this team can't find a way to turn it on and get some big wins late and maybe even contend for a number one overall seed. So let's be pie in the sky here. Let's imagine we get to March and Auburn is in the hunt for a number one overall seed. What has to happen with this schedule for that to be the case?
Yeah, you're gonna have to really play an excellent SEC season, I think, to have that happen again. I think they're gonna drop some in the non-con. With some of the matchups that they have, that Indiana game on the road is going to be difficult. That Houston game is going to be difficult, and that players' era situation is going to be difficult. But I think that Auburn has a decent chance to clip some of those teams. But once you get into the SEC play, listen, man, when you look at this SEC slate, it's never going to be easy, but you're talking about a team like, let's just start with Arkansas. Like that Arkansas team is going to be young and they're going to have guys that are out there ready to kind of atone for what happened last year, another year under Calipari. So, like, you're going to have a team that's a little bit more adept to what he wants to do. That Missouri team is always going to play hungry. I don't know that they're going to be quite as good this year, but again, they're going to have a difficult team to beat. I don't know that South Carolina got any better this year, so I'm not super worried about that team. That Ole Miss squad's not going to be an easy out. Florida is still, like, you're talking about some bigs. They brought all of them back.
Yep. It's
So,
miserable.
like, you are oversized. I mean, you're undersized against a team that's what they function off of is size. They don't have the closer this year yet identified that they had with Clayton, but difficult out. That Texas team, I'm not sure that they have any magic left. Tennessee's going to be a tough out. That Bama team looks good. Vanderbilt's going to be another tough team this year. You play Arkansas again. Mississippi State's going to always be hard-nosed team. That Kentucky team, if they're anything like what they've looked so far in the exhibition, I don't know yet. Oklahoma, So, I mean, you got some tough teams there within that. You can win 15 in that slate and be okay, right?
I think if you
Um,
win 15, I think you are absolutely contending for a one seed for
but that's
sure.
I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to, win. I mean, 13, I think at the minimum gets you into a really good conversation, at least high seeded going into the SEC tourney.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to probably win 15 to get to a contention for number one seed, based upon what I think is going to happen in the preseason or the non-con.
Yeah, I think that's a really good take on it. And when you look at the schedule, it does sort of line up very similarly to what we had last year. I mean, you've got the preseason number one, or sorry, preseason number two, Houston, that we're going to be playing sort of in a homestand. You know, Birmingham's pretty close by, right?
Yeah,
And then you've got the preseason
three.
number one, Purdue in Indianapolis. That's going to be a tough one. We're going all the way to Tucson to take on Arizona in December. Their preseason number 14. You've got Michigan and Oregon guaranteed inside of that Players Era tournament, which is obviously, in my opinion, going to be a lot tougher than even the Maui tournament was last year. So the recipe is there in a very similar way. We talked last season about how if we go 2-2 in the Big Four, and for us that would be this season Houston, Arizona, NC State, and Purdue, and then you can pick up 2 to 3 wins in that Players Era tournament. You're in really great shape heading into the
Yeah.
conference play. So I think if we are going to contend for a number one seed, you've got to get either the Houston game or the Purdue game for sure. And what I would love to see is something we got spoiled with last year of maybe it happening in the Players Era tournament or maybe it happening on the road against Arizona. This team being down double digits, like 12 to 15 points at the half, and making some kind of reckless storming comeback to take the lead late and win on a last second bucket. That to me says they're ready to go into this grind of conference play. And
Yeah.
then I think there are two keys to the SEC schedule if we want to be contending for a number one seed. We got to break the Florida curse. We're going into Gainesville. We haven't won there, I believe, since 1996. It may be 86. I've got to go back and look, but it's been a long
Far
time.
too long is the
Far
answer.
too long since we've been able to win in Gainesville. Last year, we finally broke the Rupp curse in thunderous fashion with Miles Kelly dropping threes everywhere. And I think we got to sweep Bama. I think if you sweep the Crimson Tide with how good they are expected to be this year, Philon LeBaron on a lot of teams' preseason All-American lists. Um, Alabama's ranked 15th, so they actually are ranked ahead of us in the preseason AP poll. There's plenty of time for all that to shake out. But right now, the pollsters love them. And what reason is there not to? I mean, they're returning a lot of good guys. Nate Oates is going to have those people shooting the lights out, sprinting up and down that court. Aiden Holloway's back again. We'll see if he's going to have another up and down season, especially like he had against us. But I think you're right. I think shooting for 13 wins and the double bye in the SEC tournament is a really good ceiling for this team. I
Yeah.
think if this team is in contention for a number one overall seed in March, not only have they wildly exceeded expectations, we're in miracle territory of having back-to-back seasons like this. All right,
Yeah,
Ike, you
I mean,
got
look, you just said it, but I didn't even realize it until you said it. Auburn's playing the number 1, 2, and 3 preseason ranked teams all on their schedule this year with Purdue, Houston, and Florida. Um, it's a murderous task ahead of them, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Ike. You have got somebody who's given you their Black Amex card. You get to charge whatever you want for one game this season. Where do you want to be on the court?
I definitely want to go see that Florida game.
Okay,
Like I
respect. I
want
think
to
you were
be there in case they break that streak. I want to be right there, ready to talk to the player. Like it's not going to have it's going to have more significance, I think, for the coaches than it will the players because none of these players have been through this.
sure.
But I still want to be able to, as an Auburn fan, be able to be there for that game. You're going to have the coaching rivalry that is sure to have emerged at this point in time, between Florida and Auburn because of they're friends, right? They're really good friends. The two coaches are. So you have that, and then you've got the history of what these teams have been really over the last decade or so, as far as Auburn not being able to close out games there, or really not even be close in games in that building. And then Florida really they were the final boss that Auburn needed to beat last year, and they weren't able to get over the hump. So, yeah, I definitely want to be able to be at that game for sure.
That sounds awesome. And, pride says I want to be there for the last game of the year in the airplane hangar of Coleman Coliseum after Alabama won in our house to end the season last year and left kind of a
Mm.
bad taste in our regular season mouth. But I got to tell you, Matt went to Atlanta for the game against Indiana. And, Indiana hasn't been great for the last 10 years or so. They've had some good seasons, but overall they've not been where they're used to being as a program. And the way that those fans traveled for that game, Matt still talks about it to this day as one of his favorite basketball environments ever. And the
That
idea
was
of going,
good.
yeah,
Playing in Atlanta for the Elite Eight was electric. It
I can
was
only imagine.
it was so that those two games in Atlanta for the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight were golly. I mean, the way the Michigan game played out, and then you played Michigan State, and man, it was. I can't. And I was at both. I was at the Indiana game. That Indiana game was never in question. The stakes weren't as
Mhm.
high. You just kind of did. Man, the tournament games there were so crazy.
I cannot even imagine. I mean, we could talk about last year all day. I'm sure it was incredible. But if I had one game that I could watch in person this year, I would want to go to Indianapolis to watch us take on Purdue.
Mm.
Because thinking about how well Indiana traveled for a regular season game when their team wasn't even that good, I just know the Purdue fans would be there, and it would be a Final Four weekend type atmosphere for
It will.
sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because Auburn fans
Purdue,
are going to travel well.
yeah,
It's going to be a big arena that they're playing in. So, yeah, it's going to be a good environment. I'm trying to make all of them. I don't have a budget to do it, but we're going to figure it out.
sponsor this man, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Purdue's got a tough road to get there. They're playing Alabama in just the third game of the season on November 13th. That'll be a fun one to watch. And then in the lead up, they've got to go to Rutgers. They've got Iowa State at home, and then they've got Marquette at home before
Mm.
they get a chance to dance with Auburn and Indianapolis. So they're going to be pretty battle tested in the exact same way we are. I think that game has the potential to be absolutely electric. All right, Ike,
It's going to be a
is there
battle of
anything else
two
you want
really
to talk
good
about?
preseason guards as well, like two guards that are
Oh, yeah.
highly touted nationally, battling it out in that game. So that's going to be an interesting duel there.
Wait, did I see right? Does Braden Smith still have eligibility?
Yeah, he's
How?
still. I think he's the
How?
preseason like Big Ten Player of the Year or something like that. So
Big surprise. And obviously Trey Coppin-Wren is back again as well to be an absolute monster inside. It's going to be a fun matchup. Ike, is there anything else you want to talk about leading up to Monday night and how this season is going to kick off?
I mean, I'm just really looking forward to seeing the style of play that this team is going to kind of settle into. Right now, between the two games, it looks like two kind of different teams. And so it's going to be interesting to kind of see how, as they start to figure out what the personality of this team, because it's always about who the coach is and what the personality. And I tweeted this, and I think somebody was confused by what I meant. Um, Stephen Pearl is as active on the sidelines as Bruce Pearl ever was. Like, he's up and down the sidelines, he's talking, he's doing, but the energy that he has is very different than Bruce Pearl's energy. Like, Bruce is always like just on the border of angry all the time, right? Like, he just seems like he's mad for 80% of the game at something, and he's yelling at and Stephen has his moments where he's mad, but he's a very active motivator on the sidelines. Like, because he's a defensive guy in the way that he thinks. Like, he's very active when his team is on defense and calling stuff out, and like it's just a very different kind of energy you can see him using when he's pacing up and down the sidelines. I'm anxious to see how that translates in games. We saw it a little bit in versus Oklahoma State, fortunately early, how it translates in games when it's a close game, and how, he kind of meters his ability to get on guys and encourage guys at the same time, and what kind of decisions he's going to make in the midst of those types of things. Very interested to see head coach Stephen Pearl in those tough games, big moments, the way that he manages timeouts, substitutions, all of those things that are going to potentially lead to wins and losses in those tight games.
Yeah, I tell you what, we've already seen Steven call some heat check timeouts this year. It has been such a welcome change. Last year, he was sort of on Janai broom duty. Anytime Janai was getting a little bit heated, you would see that Steven was the first guy in his ear there, getting him focused back on the game, getting him focused on what he could do. And it paid dividends. We had a National Player of the Year for the Sporting News. He should have been the overall National Player of the Year, but that's a conversation for another time. I thank you for joining us. Hopefully, we can get you on for at least one more game discussion this season. Yeah.
Man, I'll come on anytime that I have availability. Love doing it, man.
That's the tricky part, right? You're a busy man. Ike Jones, thank you so much. War Eagle, everybody. We're looking forward to the season.
War Eagle.
All right, my man. Do you want me to send you a copy of this audio?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. I'll get that sent over to you, and I'll send over a little graphic for you later too. But
Sounds good.
appreciate your time, man. And yeah, we'll talk schedule soon. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Just let me know. I'm like I said, this is once we get past football season. Of course, I'm full time into basketball, so let's make it happen.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. See you, Ike.
Peace.